Good morning. Welcome to Wake Up with Ashland. My name is Eric Brooks. I'm the curator here at Ashland, the Henry Clay Estate. It's great to be with you on this very rainy, somewhat stormy morning. Not going to complain about that. We definitely need the rain, so we'll be pleased that we're getting some at this point after it's been so hot and so dry. And after I got my lawn mowed and weed eated yesterday, so gotta like that. Good morning to my wife and probably my cat LV, who are generally watching together. Glad to see you all this morning. This morning on Wake Up with Ashland, we're going to do a triple feature of sorts. We're going to talk about three things that are somewhat unrelated, but we'll find ways to connect them together. We're going to talk about Boston, Massachusetts, the 4th of July, and the new web feature that we're introducing that I think you'll enjoy, want to take advantage of. So we're very pleased to put that out there for you to use. Good morning, Katrina. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you having us. So let's start with Boston. Some of you who follow our Facebook page probably saw Cameron Walpole's post yesterday. She's in Boston. She's on a personal trip there and took the time to go down and visit Faneuil Hall, which if you're ever in Boston, I can highly recommend. Boston has a lot of great things. It's a very historic city, well worth a visit. Just don't do it when I did it in either January or February. Not go south in that time. Don't go to Boston in that time of the year. It's really cold. But it's a great place to visit. And it's a city that thought highly of Henry Clay, respected Clay a great deal, a city he visited and spoke at least once in 1833 and perhaps at other times. It was a manufacturing city, an industrial city. Clay was a big supporter of American industry. And so he had a lot of support in places like Boston where there were lots of industries and people in industry who benefited from his policies. So it's not surprising that he was popular there. As I said, Cameron was at Faneuil Hall yesterday and talked about the fact that Clay made a northeastern trip in 1833 to cities like Philadelphia, New York, Boston, etc. Morning, Mike. Morning, Aaron. Thanks for watching. Mike's one of our volunteers. Glad to have you with us. So he's visiting these cities, again, to promulgate his policies. He's just lost a run for the presidency, so he's probably looking for ways to reestablish himself. Good morning, Belinda. Nice to have you with us. So he's visiting all these places. And in Boston, as with the other cities, he is given many opportunities to speak, many toasts, accolades, and so on. So he is being, in many ways, sort of feted, if you will, thrown events in his honor, etc. And we happen to have on loan to us a couple of pictures. I'm going to turn a light on here so you can hopefully see this a little better. It's a little dark today with the weather. These pictures are engraved, if you can see that. Young Men of Boston to Henry Clay, October 31st, 1833. So these were given to him on that trip. That's a heck of a treat to get for Halloween right there. Good morning, Cameron. So Cameron's apparently heading back from Boston to Washington through Boschwash, the greatest metropolitan area in the country. It's an interesting journey along through there. I've made several parts of it myself. So safe travels, Cameron. I hope everything goes well. Good luck getting back to Washington. These are really neat pieces to have these gifts. We have a lot of gifts here at Ashland that were given to Henry Clay, many of which were quite spectacular. Good morning, Gene. Thanks for watching. We have two of these. You can see here's the other one, both engraved. Like I say, these are on loan. We borrow things regularly. Good morning, Salary. Nice to have you with us. These things we borrow are things that enhance our interpretation, provide opportunities for programming like this, etc. So we're very pleased to be able to do that. In between is a ribbon. This ribbon is for the Boston #1 Clay Club. Clay clubs like this existed in many parts of the country, and they were both sort of fan club, but also sort of like local political party organizations. And they supported Clay as a candidate, as a politician. They supported his policies. They were generally comprised of Whigs. This one was a very active club, and I'm going to show you several pieces that relate to that. I don't know how well you can see it, but if you look at the bottom, there's a little handwritten note that says that this piece was used in an event on July 4th, 1844. So, 4th of July, we've got that in there. The 4th of July was observed. It was an important day. People took the time to reflect on the founding of our country. Clay made speeches on that day. At least once, his son made a speech here when he was a congressman representing the Ashland district here at Ashland. He made a big speech on the 4th. So it was a time that politicians often took opportunities to have events. This would have been in the campaign of 1844, and I don't know that Clay was there for this. I don't think he was, but nonetheless, an event held to support his candidacy. This is also on loan to us. I'm going to turn the light around here. This is one of my favorite pieces of Bostonia in the collection. It's actually a really neat engraving. I'm turning the phone. Oh, can't turn my phone while recording. Oh, well. This is a mass meeting on the Boston Common, September 19th, 1844. This is the mass meeting of the Whigs. This is respectfully inscribed to Clay Club number 1. So the same one we just saw. And this is Boston Common. I believe Faneuil Hall is somewhere back in there. So that's where Cameron was yesterday. And you can see all of these people gathered to support the Whig Party. Good morning, Denise. Thanks for watching. And they're all carrying campaign signs and banners, not unlike this campaign sign. This is one that's specifically Henry Clay. It's in our collection. And again, it references home industry. So again, a reference to his support of American business and industry. But if you get really close here, you can see some of the signs and the things that they say. It's really a fascinating piece. There aren't many of these that show events like this underway. I guess this was probably a fairly challenging thing to do to create an image of this sort, so there aren't a lot of them. I haven't seen very many copies of this one. We're very pleased that we have it in the collection. We often bring it out to talk about the campaign of 1844. So I'm going to swing my light around. We have some campaign music. This is a piece that's probably among the most attractive. You can see there's Henry Clay's birthplace in Ashland and the White House. So this is meant to represent what they would be the three residences, the three most important residences of Henry Clay. And you can see again, dedicated, I'll bring that around so we can see a little better here. By permission to the Honorable Henry Clay by the Boston Clay Club number 1. So again, we see this Clay Club in action. It's called the Whig Chief. There were many, many songs of this sort. In fact, we actually have a whole book, a little small pocket book designed to be carried at Whig events with songs like this in it. This is one called the Ashland Melodies. You can see there's Henry Clay right on the cover. And if you come down here, this is dedicated to J.L. Dimmock, Esquire, President of Clay Club number 1 by the publisher. It was published in Boston by Henry Prentice. This is part of a set of songs dedicated to Henry Clay. This one is designed to connect Henry Clay and George Washington. You can see Clay and Washington. Again, published in Boston. So you can see how popular, and this is another one that references that July 4th, 1844 date. So there must have been a significant event, a Whig event that day. Good morning, Susan. Thanks for joining us. This piece of sheet music references that. This is another important piece in the collection that is Boston related. This is a Masonic apron. This particular apron, Henry Clay received as a gift from the Marquis de Lafayette. And the Marquis de Lafayette wore this apron on his trip around the country. Good morning, Robin. When he was traveling the United States, and specifically wore it at the laying of the cornerstone of the monument at the battlefield of Bunker Hill, which is right outside Boston. This was on the 50th anniversary of the battle. They laid a cornerstone to build this monument. He then later gave this to Henry Clay. So it's a very, very important apron, probably made in France. You can see all the details here. There are a lot of Masonic symbols in here. I'll share a little Masonic secret if you're wondering about the J and the B. That's Jeroboam and Boaz, the two columns that support the entrance to the Temple of King Solomon. You can see the Masonic tools, the sun and the moon. So lots of symbolism there. And we think Clay may have worn this occasionally, and it lay on his casket at his funeral. Cameron asks about the Clay clubs. As I said, the Clay clubs served as sort of a fan club, but also to support Clay in his campaign. So particularly in 1844, these organizations would hold events, raise money, and publish things like these songs to support Clay's candidacy as a presidential candidate. And these Clay clubs continued even after he ceased to be president. They would have birthday events, for example, in recognition of Clay's birthday. So they did a lot of different things. And like I say, were made up of people who supported Clay's policies, who were fans of Clay, if you will. So there were Clay clubs in a lot of different countries, different cities around the United States. New York City, Philadelphia, many even smaller cities had Clay clubs. So they were quite common. This is a statue of Henry Clay. This is actually one of my favorite pieces of Clay art. There are lots of paintings and photographs, engravings, busts. Hello, Connie. But this is one of the few non-life-size, full-length sculptures of Clay. This thing is about 3 feet tall, maybe 2.5 feet tall, something like that. It's in bronze. The reason it's here is that this was designed by an artist from Boston. His name was Thomas Ball. He did this in 1858. Good morning, Alan. This particular sculpture, this is an interesting thing. He clearly intended this for sale. He clearly did this as an economic project. This was done to make money. We know that because he patented this. And then he sold the patent to another man who manufactured them. So these are found in a variety of collections. There's one over at Transylvania University in their special collections reading room. There's one at the United States Capitol. I believe it's currently in the office of the Senate Curator. There are a number of these. I think maybe Kentucky Historical Society has one. A number of these were produced. I think it's one of the best sculptures of Clay. It's always been among my favorites, and I'm really glad we have one in our collection. And this is a piece that appears to have been purchased by a friend of Nanette McDowell Bullock, Henry Clay's great-granddaughter, at or about the time that she was creating the foundation that operates Ashland. And he probably bought it to enhance Clay's presence in the home and serve as a way to provide an image of him for further interpretation here at the home. I'm going to move my light around here. Ooh. The lighting today is a little challenging, so I apologize for that. This is a locket. We've got a letter that goes with it. I'm going to try to turn this light around so that hopefully you can see this good. That locket contains a little piece of Henry Clay's hair. You can see it there, tied to a little piece of string, and it's actually stamped. This is hard to see, Henry Clay with his birth and death dates around the frame. It also contains a lock of the hair of Daniel Webster. Well, it's telling me I can't rotate that far. So I'll pull back. But the other side contains a lock of Daniel Webster's hair. So this was made for a man named Charles Russell, who was an attorney in Boston, a big supporter of Clay's and obviously of Daniel Webster, who was a senator from Massachusetts. So this is 2/3 of the Great Triumvirate, the other one being John C. Calhoun, and I guess probably Russell, being a Bostonian, was not as interested in Southern figures. This is a letter which Russell writes thanking a Mrs. Calvert for the lock of hair. Now, Mrs. Calvert, we believe to be Mrs. Charles T. Calvert of Prince George's County, Maryland, which is right near where Cameron resides. She may actually reside in Prince George's County, I'm not sure. Good morning, Gaynell. But this document shows that she sent the locket of hair of Clay to Russell. Now, who was she? Well, she and her husband had a farm and were friends of Henry Clay. And during the compromise negotiations of 1850, Clay became very sick and went to their farm to recuperate and get out of the miasma of Washington. Later on, in the last months of his life, Mrs. Calvert took care of Clay as he became sicker and sicker with tuberculosis. So she would have had access to and been able to acquire the lock of hair that Mr. Russell wanted. Now, we don't know exactly when the locket was made. There's a date on the back of 1891. I think Mr. Russell made the locket for his son, who was born around the time Henry Clay died, and would not ever know Clay except as a historical figure, and he wanted to make sure there was a memento. So anyway, you can see this is an example of how loved Clay was in Boston. So that's an interesting piece in our collection that we acquired containing his hair. We have a number of others that do as well. Good morning, Maryland. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for tuning in from Massachusetts. Glad to have someone from Massachusetts. That's really interesting. Good morning, Sue, another of our loyal volunteers. Good to see you this morning. So as you can see, we have a variety of pieces in the collection related to Clay and Boston that I think are really interesting and tell some very fascinating stories. It's nice to be able to talk about them in context of that city. Now I want to talk about the third thing that I wanted to talk about today. And the third thing I wanted to talk about is a new feature on our website. I'm going to sit down here. I'll pin around some of the artifacts while I do that. Something that we actually had one before, but I think this one will provide us some opportunities that the last one did not. So if you've been to our website, you'll notice that we've had an online catalog for some time. We have, for many years, used one system that worked pretty well, but one of the big limitations of it. Good morning. Somebody here at Ashland is apparently tuned in. I'll assume that's probably Kate, our business manager, but it could be any of the folks from Ashland. So glad to see my cohorts in crime are watching. Anyway, so we've always had this catalog, but what we didn't have was the ability to manage the collection from the cloud. In other words, to store our data there and be able to access it anywhere. Well, we can do that now. We have a piece of software that is cloud-based. If you deal with computers and software much at all, you'll know that in this day and age, that's where it all is. Everything is moving to the cloud. And there are some real advantages to that. When I update computers, which I did last year, I don't have to worry about moving that software. I just log in on the new computer and I'm good to go. So that's a very nice thing. It really makes it easy. But it also means we have a new catalog, and it is integrated with our WordPress website. There's actually a plugin for that. So the catalog is right there. It's not a link to another site anymore. So if you go to our website, www.henryclay.org, and click the Learn tab down at the bottom, you'll see Collections Catalog. If you click that, it opens the catalog main screen, and you can scroll down and see a series of folders and look for artifacts. Pretty much every artifact in the collection is up there. So you can look through our collection. It's photographic in nature, so you'll see the photographs immediately. You can browse it, you can search it. It's very easily searchable. So I welcome you to do that. You can also go to henryclay.org/catalog, and it'll take you straight to it. One of the things I can do with this now is when I do Wake Up, I have a folder within our set of folders on our main screen called Wake Up with Ashland. And every artifact that I talk about in Wake Up with Ashland will be in that folder. So you can just click that folder, and you'll see all of the stuff that I've talked about today in there. And you can see close-up pictures, you read information about the artifacts, and so on. So you can get a lot more information there. And I will leave these artifacts in that folder probably for a while until I get closer to my next Wake Up. Then I will take all of these artifacts out, and whatever I do the next time, I will put the artifacts for that Wake Up in the folder. So every time I do Wake Up, every artifact that you see, you can go in there and check it out. And I think that's a really neat thing. I love to be able to share it in that way. So I hope you'll enjoy that. Look forward to you checking it out. If you have feedback, I'd love to hear it. You can email me at ebrooks@henryclay.org. You can go here on Facebook and leave us feedback. You can send it to our information email, whatever. But I do look forward to hearing about it. And if you have questions about any artifact, please feel free to ask. Again, ebrooks@henryclay.org. You can call me at 859-266-8581, extension 203. So I hope everyone has a great 4th of July, celebrates this weekend, maybe gets to see family and friends. It's nice that this year we're more able to do that. I'm looking forward to seeing my family as we've gathered on the 4th for many years. So that will be nice, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon on Wake Up with Ashland. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon. You're welcome, Katrina. I'm really glad we could offer it. It's been an evolutionary process, and I think we're in a place now where we can do some really unique things with it. So I hope people will take advantage of it. And it is a great resource. It's great that technology allows this now. Well, thank you very much. Have a good day and enjoy your weekend.